Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our Joint Waste and Diversion Site Committee meeting for Monday, May 5th, 2025. I'll call this meeting to order at 10 o'clock and look for the approval of the agenda. So that the Joint Waste and Diversion Site Committee approve the agenda as circulated, moved by Member Dubik and seconded by Member Mackey. Any discussion? All those in favor? That's carried. Declaration of pecuniary interest. Let me know if anything arises. And approval of the minutes. That the Joint Waste and Diversion Site Committee approved the minutes of February 3rd, 2025 as circulated or as amended. Amendments to those minutes. So Member Mackey moving as circulated, Member Dubik is seconding. All those in favor? That's carried. Okay, item 5. Chatsworth update, verbal update. And
I have nothing.
Nothing. Okay. There is the resolution regarding the terms of reference that was approved by Chatsworth Council. So, okay, we'll go on to item 6. And, well, if there's no update, we don't need a motion. Correct. Okay. Item 6, 6.1 is the Grey Highlands verbal update. Okay.
I will preface this by Director Meyer put this together for me, so I might not be able to answer it because that's good questions.
Okay.
So the hard performance system for the 2025 budget request that was purchased and it arrived in April. We had the company on site to do training and we started using that as of 2 weeks ago, I believe. So that's purchased through Chart Armor. We do have an exterminator coming on site and he set up some bait stations to control the pest on site. That is one of the requirements. There was some concerns noted by our operational staff after the firefighters garage sale in Chatsworth. There was 3 mixed loads that came in that had quite a bit of divertible items in them and some hazardous waste as well. So just some concerns that mattresses were soiled and there was a lot of recyclable and electronic material kind of mixed in. So it was quite a bit of time and effort for our staff to clean up and take out what we could because they're very proud and do the best they can to make sure they divert everything we can from the landfill. So just wanted to make those concerns noted for the committee. And then the last is our spring cleanups. Every year we do a call out to other departments to see if anyone wants to come and help in a couple morning meetings. And we do our pizza lunch. So staff come with steel toe boots and do sharks training. Just to kind of clean up after the winter. So we have a lot less litter noted this year after some litter fencing and snow fencing was installed. So other than that, no other updates.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Member Matt.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Just a comment and maybe a question to Patty. The fire department typically took all of that waste to the Sullivan diversion site, which is just around the corner. You know why they were traveling down to Markdale?
Go ahead, see.
I don't know why. One of the things I just noted is to find out what was the tonnage of what went to Markdale. I know the Firefighters Association last couple of years have looked after getting their own bins. It had been township vehicles previously. I think there's some questions that should probably be asked.
So we will make efforts to try and remedy that for a future year.
For that. Go ahead.
I will just note, I think this is either the 2nd or 3rd year for it coming to the Markdale site. So they did give us a heads up it was coming. And I know Director Mark did speak to, I believe it was Anthony Evans on the fire department, just about trying to make some effort in sorting materials. So I know they did remove quite a bit of hazardous and everything before it came to the site, but there's still some kind of found in materials.
Go ahead.
We will certainly follow up. I know the fire department, they spend an entire week preparing for this yard sale. They typically raise about $15,000 for the fire department. But there is an issue with cleanup on the Saturday, you know, the guys have been there all week and they're just trying to get rid of stuff, so maybe, getting more bins available for them is something that, Chatsworth will look at. Thank you.
Okay, you. Any other comments or questions? The TARP, how did we do on the budget? You know,
I will have to follow up with that. I believe it was pretty close, but the exchange rate, because it did come from the US, so getting it across the border was a whole interesting thing as well. So that's still kind of unknown at this time for.
and the rodents, I'm assuming they're worried about them eating the TARP, chewing on the TARP, is that the concern?
My understanding is they're just a little closer to the receiving area this year is why the gate stations are being set up.
Okay.
Closer to where residents are compared to.
Oh, okay, so nothing to do with the TARP. Okay. Okay. There are no other questions or comments. There's a motion there that the Joint Waste and Diversion Site Committee received the Grey Highlands verbal update for information. Member Dubick, Member Mackey is seconding. Any further discussion? All those in favor? That's carried. Item 7.1, terms of reference. And the motion would be that the Joint Waste and Diversion Site Committee receive the Joint Waste and Diversion Site Committee terms of reference for information. So if we could get a mover and a seconder for that. Member Dubick.
Sure.
Member,
Sure. So before you move it a second, we did want to give an update on, CAO. Then and myself had a conversation about, whether this is actually a committee or is it an actual board. And we kind of went down a rabbit hole and started looking at information. And I subsequently had conversations with Clerk Van Alstyne, and we've come to a consensus that we wanted to present to you before you go ahead and adopt the terms of reference.
so, so it's just saying that we received, and the previous motion was for staff to review and come back with changes, but has it been done? CEO Cinema?
So if I might, thank you, Chair Allen. So yes, it is actually under section 202 of the Municipal Act. It is a joint municipal board. It's assets that are owned by two municipalities. On our financial statement, it is part of our consolidated financial statement. So in conversation with CAO Gavin, we're suggesting that it not be in terms of reference. You don't need two separate documents. I think that's part of the confusion, is when two documents don't match, that it can be part of our agreement. So if we go back to when this was first established, I think in maybe 2003, it was established as a board. And so the idea would be to amend the agreement and you don't need terms of reference. All of those conditions should be set out in your agreement, and that way it's very clear. You're not referring to two separate documents. I understand there's maybe some misunderstanding that agreement that we have drafted should have been on the agenda. So I would suggest that this be deferred until a future meeting. Karen and I have reviewed the draft and making sure that everything is in that agreement. And then you don't have an extra schedule for terms of reference, so.
Okay. And when that comes back to us, will the changes be tracked, highlighted?
Yeah,
Something?
Yeah, and we can circulate that out well in advance. I have provided a copy to CAO Gavin, and all the changes are in red and things that are, either a strike over or else in red font, so.
Perfect, okay. All right, so we don't want this motion on books, so it was just moved, so we'll take that off the as a motion. So is there any further? Go ahead, Pat.
I would if you want a motion to defer that item.
Yes, okay. So motion to defer this item 7.1, member Mackey. Go ahead.
Should we be deferring it if we're not going to have terms of reference? Or should we be providing direction to bring back? Yeah, go ahead.
So that direction was already given, some time ago. And we talked and, whether we want to do a staff report or just provide the new agreement on the agenda for discussion purposes. And then you can make a recommendation to your respective councils from there.
So that member back is right, we don't want to defer it.
We don't want
don't need it to
reference
come
coming
back.
back, because that's not what we're looking for.
So we'll just treat it like the Chatsworth verbal update, there wasn't, you just didn't make a motion, so, okay. Unless we need to get it off the book somehow, because right now we did ask for it to come back, so. The recommendation, CAO comment.
Thank you, Chair Allen. I think we can address, I think if we need this, like we did with the verbal update, we can address it in the recommendation when we bring back the agreement to dissolve the terms of reference for the commitment. We can deal with it all at that point. I think that probably works the best.
Are you okay with that? Okay, all right, so we'll skip over 7.1 then, member Mackey.
Could I just ask what the timing of this should be? Like,
Will it be
how
on next?
critical is it to get this new agreement in force and effect, knowing that we're not utilizing in terms of reference?
CAO comment.
Thank you, Chair Allen. So the committee, the board was operating under the agreement beforehand. The terms of reference was triggered when the municipal staff were updating the terms of references for council committees. It wasn't something that the board had asked for. So really, you can operate under the agreement. It's just that since this has come to light, we want to amend the agreement so it aligns with the function of the board, and perhaps even suggest a name change so that it is recognized as a board and not confused with committees going forward.
Okay. So we'll move on then from 7.1. Next item is 7.2, annual monitoring report. Yeah, comments or questions there? I have a couple of things that on page 11, it says about days open and it says we're open Monday. It's not a big deal. They probably just have information from previous years that they left in. I don't know if we need to change that. My other question was about on page 21 about well, I had on page 11 about wood waste and burn piles. Are we still allowed to burn? Is that right?
So yes, we are still allowed to burn, however, they're not the preferred method. We have that study, there's staff on site for full-time monitoring it, so when we shred the wood, we're able to use that as cover material. It's not a practice we've used in the last 30 years, but it still is permitted in our COA.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions, comments?
Yeah, that was actually my question too, around recommendation number 4. So, maybe just as a comment. So, I did do just, wanted to make sure we went through the recommendations and, like at the end of the day, it looks like there's nothing out of line from previous years and things are well handled. And it was just more about recommendation number 4 about taking extra care about removing unacceptable materials from burn pile. And yeah, it was just about that.
So you want any more information or?
Is there anything else that we need to know about that recommendation or?
I don't believe so. Our staff are doing a really good job on site sorting material that can be shredded, or if we were to continue burning. I don't think it's an activity we're interested in resuming anytime soon for the burning. The shredding seems to work quite well for the workplace on site.
Thanks. I'm just wondering if staff could comment on the life expectancy it's based on a 5-year rolling average. I believe that the amount, as long as both municipalities continue to operate the same way they are, that average will be decreasing significantly, which would have, you know, a real impact on the life expectancy. And I guess it, you know, the question then comes into play about the big investment that the committee is recommending around the shredder. Are we going to get the same value if we're not having the material coming in? You know, the same level of material coming in? Like, we've certainly been sold on the pros of having the shredder and the life expectancy that that provides, but it's one of those things, we don't know what the future is going to hold. I know we're going to be looking at, you know, going in for a contract, or, you know, and depending on who gets the contract, we may be sending more material down to Markdale. So, in the big scheme of things, I think continuing on with purchasing the shredder does make sense, but wasn't sure where Great Highlands was at. Their thoughts around it.
Comments, CEO Goblin?
Thank you, Chair Allen. I think the majority of Great Highlands Council supports purchasing the shredder. It is about the longevity of the site. I think nothing's changed in that way. We both sides know that the contracts are coming up for renewal, and that may change. Given that I think we slated to purchase the shredder in 2026, I think we was brought back to 2026. You know, that conversation can take place before that capital project is represented to both councils in the 2026 budget. But I would suggest that Great Highlands Council are supportive of that purchase right now, in principle.
And Chatsworth was supported through our budget process too. Just when I saw how much the amount of material going in had decreased, I just wanted to make sure we were all on the same page. Thank you.
Member Dubin?
Yeah, no, and thank you for that conversation, because I keep thinking about that in my mind as well, in terms of our commitment to the landfill space. I still believe that it's the right thing to do, even if you know, say we have on average right now it's between 27 and 35 years. It's you know, based on calculations. Less is going in. We will see some growth continue. So you know, so there could be a bit of an increase there, even if it goes out to 40 years. I think just in terms of the managing our environment, the longer we can get out of that landfill site, I think is better in the long term. I do agree. I think about technologies, about, you know, what are the upcoming technologies in the future and what does that mean? Like incineration, you know, I keep hearing a little bit more about that all the time. But I think until I think at the end of the day, because it is a functioning landfill, I still think just that would probably is still the right direction at this point in time.
Okay.
And I think we had a very good conversation at our budget around, you know, the shredder, because it is such a big investment. But I think generally there was, you know, as the CEO has mentioned, there was, I think, general good consensus to keep moving in that direction.
I wonder if all these trade wars and tariffs, if that's going to affect the price. I'm assuming it's coming out of the States, but maybe I shouldn't assume that. Does anybody know? No.
Bernie's gonna fix all that tomorrow.
Is it?
We will be getting updated pricing, obviously, before recommending it, but at this time, staff are going to still recommend proceeding with the purchase, especially with the growth in the area too.
Something that I didn't see in the report, and maybe it's something that we do internally, but is just the numbers for Chatsworth and Great Highlands as far as allocation, where sit. Do we have? I didn't see it in this, but maybe I didn't read all 213 pages either. Do we know that figure as of the end of 2024?
Yes, I just need to pull it up.
Okay.
So it was 78% for Highlands and 22% Chatsworth.
Well, no, that's the amount of
Oh,
waste going into the site, but we each have the 50% of the site, correct?
right.
So,
I do not have
you
that.
know, okay. Any other comments or questions on the annual monthly turn-on report? Member Duvick?
Yeah, maybe just a little bit of education, just around allegiance. Could you just provide me just a little bit of that kind of story about it, because, as the base of the landfill changes, the, allegiance, also the pattern allegiance can have changed as well, so it's talking about that. I just wondering if you can just kind of provide a bit of an overview about, how we should be thinking about that, and, any concerns, or maybe just a little bit of an overview of that.
I don't know what the best one is. I don't know.
Good chair, thank you. I went to put my microphone on the wrong meeting. So it is obviously very technical.
Yeah.
I would suggest that that question is either goes back to the engineers, or we see if Director Moyer has an update on that. But obviously, part of the annual inspection, the annual report is for them to monitor that, and I don't think there's any specific route it goes. I think it just depends on, how the site itself is operated. It's just that, we have to contain it within the site, and obviously that's primary focus to do that. So I don't think there's any concerns at this point in time, but it is monitored.
Okay. I know there's so much technicality to this. It's nice to have a bit of the layman's terminology, but I do appreciate this. So, yeah, thank you.
Anything else? Okay, I think I got a motion on the floor so that the Joint Waste and Diversion Site Committee receives staff report JWDS C 2501 2024 annual monitoring report for information. Member Dubick and Member Mackey. Any further discussion? All those in favor? That's carried. Okay, so our next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, August 5th, 10 o'clock, here in the municipal office. That's still okay for everybody? Okay. Last motion, that the Joint Waste and Diversion Site Committee adjourn at 10:24 until the next meeting or until the call of the chair. Member Dubick, Member Mackey, all those in favor, that's carried. Okay, thank you.